Great. So we've been joined by Larry Jiagge, who's a lawyer and a chartered insurer also. We've been having this conversation about, even the qualification of these persons, whether they meet the fit and proper rule of the National Insurance Commission operating under the Insurance Act. Larry, good morning once again. So you're a lawyer, you're also an insurance practitioner. Help us understand, first of all, who qualifies to be CEO of an insurance company.
Good morning again. Good morning again. Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Please go ahead. Good morning.
As to who qualifies to be a chief executive officer, or what is normally called the principal officer, is defined in the Insurance Act. As you stated earlier, the provision is at Section 55 of the Insurance Act at 1061.
Okay.
You read out the details, so there's no need for me to go through. But all along, the regulator have always enforced that provision. And let me state that the provision is not new. It was also in the previous Act, which is Act 724. And so it is not a new addition to Act 1061. It has always been there. All along, all regulators have enforced the provision. And I recall one of the past regulators was brave enough to tell the government in power then that somebody was not qualified and that she would not approve the person. And the government withdrew the appointment of the person.
Which year was this?
I think it was during the period or it was under Commissioner Bauer, Lydia Bauer.
Okay.
So until the appointment of Mr. Odro, the regulators have always abided by the provision, which was otherwise couched in Act 724.
So what's wrong with the current CEO? Because we're told the handing over will be done somewhere next week. Per the Act, what's wrong with her as CEO?
She was not qualified under the provisions of Section 55 of Act 724. Act 1061, not 724. And let me also give the indication that the regulator's attention was drawn to this by some market players. In fact, some market players specifically wrote to the regulator, the commissioner, to indicate to them that under the provisions of the law, lawyer Holista was not qualified to occupy the position at SIC.
Okay. And what happened? Well, we saw it. She still continued. But
yes, she continued.
In that case, we know the acting CEO or MD is James Ajeni Boateng. Does he also meet the fit and proper criteria as set out in Section 55 and based on the regulations, released by the NICS and the National Insurance Commission?
Let me be careful here. If he does not have the qualifications, that is the professional qualification and the 8 years minimum requirement, then I may have to say he is not qualified. And I'm talking strictly from a professional point of view and interpreting the provisions of the Act.
Mr. Jiagge, can the qualification criteria be set aside?
No, it is obligatory. When you read, you realize that it says shall. That was the word used.
Can it be waived?
There's no provision in the Act that grants that window.
Can the expression mostly uses analogous qualifications be used. So
The
banking
analogous
professional.
qualifications in this case are the qualifications from, let's say, Canada,
Okay,
the USA. They don't normally use our terms.
true.
And that is the interpretation the National Insurance Commission has given all along.
Okay, now I get your point. Can, say, a banking professional who might not be an insurance practitioner also be seen as qualified to occupy such a role?
Unfortunately, no.
Despite the fact that these are all in the financial markets.
Yes, there are two sectors of the financial market.
True. Now, the people want to understand, why do you put in place such a directive? Why do you have a qualification criteria for determining a person who might be giving direction to an institution of such sort? Why is the choice not left to, say, the directors or the board to find a fit to put in place somebody without education at all, but has vision, qualifications, and other things in other areas to do this job? Why is the fit and proper persons directive relevant?
I think that question should be directed to the National Insurance Commission. But as someone was involved in the crafting
Okay.
of at 724 and then the current one at 1061, I was on the two committees that were on the indication or the underlying reason is basically this. The profession is highly technical. There are a lot of things that would not make sense to the everyday Kwame walking on the street. So it is important those who lead the institution, they should have the basic qualification that is prescribed in the law. And I must say, as somebody who has forayed in the bank sector also, because I've sat on the board of banks, I must say that you find similar provisions in other professions also.
True.
But let me say that it is not like saying somebody with an engineering qualification cannot work in the insurance industry. You can't if you decide to take the insurance professional exam and work in the industry. There are so many chartered accountants who are also chartered insurers. There are so many, there are even engineers who are chartered insurers.
True.
Yeah.
Now, the other question that comes to mind is that politicians and political parties come into power and they look for options available within a pool to choose from. Is it justified that we couldn't find anybody else to do it? So we found somebody who has the vision to drive change in the sector. Is that enough?
I think that question should be addressed to the politicians.
No, I'm asking you, would that be
Yes.
tenable for you as a practitioner in the sector, that if they say that we couldn't find anybody in the sector to do the job, so we found somebody we thought was equally qualified, not necessarily with the qualifications that are stipulated in the law?
I don't know whether I got your question.
My question,
understanding
sorry,
is right.
if you can hear me,
Yes.
I start by saying that there is always a pool of resources available to political parties when they want to make such choices. If the justification for the choice of anybody who might not be qualified according to the act that's being used here is that we couldn't find anybody who meets this standard, I'm asking you whether this is a justification that is sound.
You cannot change provisions of the law by just taking a decision. If for any reason you think the provision or the indication is not helpful to the market, you take the necessary steps to amend it or change it.
Mr. Jiagge, what are the legal implications of government appointing someone who doesn't meet the requirements of this act? Will there be some liability on the part of SIC in decisions that they make? What are the legal? What could go wrong legally?
In the first place, the National Insurance Commission under normal circumstances should not approve the person. And in the specific case of the immediate past managing director, I don't think she was ever approved by the NIC. She started off as acting managing director.
Okay.
Her position changed to interim managing director. I have evidence to what I'm saying. And then she remained acting managing director as far as I am concerned. I was a shareholder of the SIC until about October or November when I disposed of my shares.
Oh, that's an interesting perspective.
Yeah.
Then, as shareholders, was she in the acting and interim capacities deserving of all the packages that a substantive would get?
The decision about remuneration is normally at the board level.
Yeah.
That is not brought to decision.
Okay, but I was asking in January whether she was in the acting and interim capacity deserving of it, whether you got to know anything close to that.
No, I have no knowledge.
Very well.
But if I may, as a person, I've always contested her appointment. First, as a Ghanaian, and second, as somebody informed about the provision of the law, and thirdly, as a shareholder.
Why?
And I must specifically state that I sold my shares, which came to about 200,000, because the regulator refused to act on the petition as submitted to them.
What was your petition asking for?
I drew the attention to the provisions of Section 55 and the directive issued by them thereon that she was not qualified.
Okay.
We cannot be violating laws that we create for political expediency. That was my position.
Okay. Now, talking about you being a shareholder would take me to this point. And if you could kindly
I
use
was a shareholder. I sold my shares at
Yes, I
November.
know. But so let's make reference to when you were a shareholder.
Yes.
Because and can you reduce the volume on your radio set? Because I look at the financial statements and I realize that over a period since 2021, 2022, 2023, the profit margins have been reducing from 60 to 21 to 12 million Ghana cedis. This certainly would have come to your attention. And as shareholders, what steps did you take? What concerns did you raise?
A lot of us have raised issues. I don't want to mention it, but the largest individual sector have always raised issues. I have raised issues. Some of that, what you're calling profit, are not profits in reality. When you create profit through asset valuation and all that, you cannot be talking about cash or liquidity.
But in 2023, they paid dividends to shareholders.
The first time in a very, very long time.
Yes, but if they paid dividends, an indicator of the fact that they really made profits, and that's
they went to borrow money to pay that dividend. I can tell you that for a
how
fact. I was a shareholder then.
They went to borrow money to pay dividends.
Yes.
How?
I'm saying that for a fact.
Hold on a minute.
Something they shouldn't do under the Insurance Act.
But that's what I'm surprised that as shareholders you allowed that to happen. They didn't have the money; they had to borrow.
It only came to our attention later.
So what did you do once it came to your attention?
Look, there are things you can't talk about on the air. Some of these problems are creations of the National Insurance Commission. They don't enforce their own law. And I have pointed this out to them in writing all the time. Not by word of mouth, in writing, that they should abide by their own law, the law they created.
So let's get
When
a
they
few
were
things.
disposing of the assets of SIC, I petitioned the National Insurance Commission as a shareholder. It took them 1 year to respond to me, and the response was basically what SIC wrote back to them, that they sought that the approval of the shareholder. That is what they sent back. And I'm not the only person. The largest individual shareholder also took the similar step. That largest individual shareholder has 21%.
I mean, I'm before I go through the financial statements and get to that point I want to get to, the kind of business you do is largely one that has people making payments, of which you would reinsure if you want to, but you do that, and then based on the claims made and the investments that you make, the returns. Now, these investments that you make and the returns that you have are things that you can readily have access to. So I am struggling to understand how it is possible that SIC will be due a lot of receivables to want to go and borrow to pay dividend. I don't understand that.
The fact is the company has been struggling for years. What we see outside, or what outsiders see, is not what some of our shareholders see.
Interesting. Please hold on 1 minute for us. Mr. Okay, so could you come before we go for a break?
Yeah, Mr. Jiagge. So what? Yeah. So tell us a little bit of what you shareholders see. Bearing in mind, Mr. Jiagge, we are shareholders too.
Let me address those ones that I wrote about, and the largest individual shareholder also wrote about the disposal of assets. The practice of insurance depends on the base investment. You should always have something in investment, so that when you have a rush on you, or when you have catastrophic losses, you can dispose of those assets and then pay your claims. There was a rush to dispose of the assets of SIC. We tried to stop it. I wrote, the largest individual shareholder wrote. We were ignored. They went ahead. I did not attend the 10 AGM because we had petitioned the NIC, and the procedure in the act is for in the act, and then the Whistleblowers Act. And let me say this: part of the Whistleblowers Act have been captured wholesale into the Insurance Act. So you don't even have to make a reference to the Whistleblowers Act to proceed. The National Insurance Commission, rather than conduct an investigation and suspend or stop the disposal, waited over a year before they responded to the petition. And I have about 4 or 5 letters that clearly show that some of us have been persistent and consistent in raising issues about the downward trend of SIC. So that is one example.
All right,
and the other one will be the appointment of unqualified people to position in complete violation of the Act. It started with Mr. Odru. He had so many problems. Apart from the fact that he wasn't qualified in accordance with the provisions of the Act, he was old. He had crossed retirement age. Eventually, he left at 69. Who does that?
Mr. Jiagge, stay with us. We want to learn more. If you just joined us, this is the Super Morning Show. We started a conversation with Larry Jiagge, who is a lawyer and chartered insurer, about SIC and their recent catapulting into the limelight following the controversy around the departure of their CEO and the assumption of office of James Ajinimboating as acting CEO. But as it turns out, not only is Mr. Jiagge a chartered insurer who understands the rules and is pointing out some clear violations of them, he also was a shareholder, and we are getting an insider view of what's been happening at one of the biggest institutions where government has the majority stake. That means you are a majority shareholder there.
Great. We still have Larry Jiagge, who's a lawyer and a chartered insurer. Now, I'm just curious, Larry, because I'm looking at your financial statements. I'm looking at your profit or loss, another comprehensive income statement for the year ending 31st December 2022. And I look at your reinsurance, for instance. Out of the total revenue of 378 million, 195 million of it goes into reinsurance. Can you explain how you came by this?
A lot to go into that. The first thing is a company has the capacity to retain a lot more business they underwrite if their fundamentals are strong. And the fundamentals will be strong if you have a lot of reserves, if you have landed assets, etc., supporting your operation. So the more reserves you have, the more investments you have, the more properties you have, that will enhance your capacity to retain a lot more business you underwrite. However, if your base is weak, you underwrite and give almost everything out. I think if you work the figures, you'll see that is about 50%.
Yes.
Of businesses are underrated. That's grossly high.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's accurate. And it could be related to things like the sale of the assets of the company that some of us petition against. If you dispose of your assets, you get cash and squander it. You weaken your capacity to retain a lot more business.
I see in, for instance, 2022, your impairment loss is 52 million. And I'm just curious because the notes to the account will say that is number 15. I just want to check that. But you attribute a lot of that to the DDEP. The DDEP.
Yes, as a matter of fact, the company was hit seriously by DDEP.
Yes, but
of their investments were impaired.
Yeah, but a lot of your investments, the DDEP, the settlements were done in 2023. Prior to the settlement of the DDEP, how much were you expecting in 2022? That you say 52 million of that was impaired.
I am not in a position now because I don't have the document before me. But that looks high.
So, for instance,
and it would have been good. It would have been good to talk to the general manager of finance. Or do they even have one now? The general manager of finance was asked to go on leave for 6 or 8 months during the time they were disposing of their outside. So I don't know whether he's back, but he should be able to explain those indications you are reading to the public.
Okay, so I see that in 2022, end of December 2022, your carrying amount was 164 million, of which you say that there was an impairment of 42 million, and so you had a fair value of 121 million. It would be important to know, for instance, whether following the DDEP, following the settlement, whether we had to unwind this impairment, for instance. But that's not for you. It only goes to show a lot of questions that we have to answer when it comes to the financial statement of SIC.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So you talked about the manager for finance being asked to go on leave during the time that assets were being disposed of.
Yeah.
Do you know why?
I don't know. They said they had accumulated the leave.
Right. Did that have an effect?
There could be other underlying reasons.
Right. Did his absence have an effect on the divestiture of assets?
I can't tell because a lot of the things were done under some level of secrecy.
So you wrote petitions, you appealed lots of things that were happening. What responses did you receive? None. National Insurance Commission did not respond to your petition at all.
I've already stated that until late last year, when I raised the issue verbally, before I was given a response, and the response was just a rehash of the indications given by SIC. Meanwhile, the Insurance Act provides that when issues like that are raised, the regulator must conduct investigation. The regulator failed to raise to stop the regulator failed to stop the process. Went ahead, went for an AGM, which some of us did not attend because we had petitioned the NIC and we were expecting the NIC to have taken the necessary steps to stop the process. So they went and got an approval. But I can say for a fact that the largest individual shareholder, who alone has 21%, did not participate in the AGM.
Mr. Jiagge, let's assume, I want to give people the benefit of the doubt, so let's assume that right now the presidency, representing the majority shareholding of SIC, is learning some of these things.
They are the largest shareholder, they are 40%.
Yes. So, so the largest shareholder, not the majority.
Yes.
Thank you. Assuming that they are hearing all of this for the first time, what is your advice to them? What should be their first move right now in order to right this sinking ship?
They need to conduct some forensic study, look at first and foremost the disposal of assets, and leave the veil to see those who bought the assets. And also there's a need for them to look at the technical capability of the technical staff. Late last year, there were a lot of transfers made to the extent that somebody from the HR department was posted to go and head Kofodua, a technical unit of the company. I've never heard of such sort of management in my life, in my 40 years of service to the...
Okay. But Mr. Jiagge, so, I mean, quick one, final one from me. I'm sure we can end the conversation.
And then also, they should encourage some of the young, very capable...
I think we're losing...
If you could, can you reposition yourself?
I think we've lost our connection to Larry Jiagge. That's a pity. It's right at the end there.
Yes, we'll try and reconnect with him. Because, I mean, just a quick question, because we know that, dividends are declared by the board, but they are approved by the shareholders also. So,
indeed.
As a shareholder at the time when these dividends were, brought, when they were proposed, what did they say? They should have a copy of the accounts. They should have known. Did they stop the payment of it? Okay, do we have Mr. Jiagge back on the line? Yes, Mr. Jiagge, I was saying finally to you that a quick question, because I know that dividends are declared by the board and approved by the shareholders, of which you are a part. But
Yes.
In approving, you have a copy of the accounts.
Yes.
So at that point, when they were declaring and approving these dividends, did you oppose it?
I indicated that it's not a...
Come again?
And the largest individual shareholders.
Oh dear. Yeah, the signal is just not
And
healthy enough.
possibly ask that the AGM should be suspended until the issues are addressed. So we did not attend the AGM so as to raise issues.
Okay. Just a quick one. In total, how much dividend was paid to all shareholders?
I can't recall.
Okay. I would do the calculation. I think the total share is about 195 million. And multiply that with the 0.005 that was declared, I think we'll come to a figure. Larry Jiagge, thank you very, very much for joining us this morning here on the Super Morning Show.
You were asking what were my recommendations for the
Yes.
That's right. Yeah.
government.
Yes.
There should be a complete restructuring. And I was saying that there are a lot of young, capable people inside the SIC who should be encouraged to rise. And then also, whoever become managing director, or if the new managing director takes his seat, they need to conduct some forensic audit into the operations of SIC, especially how a lot of their businesses went to a particular company. A lot of government businesses that should be domiciled with SIC.
Which company is this, Mr. Jiagge? Which company is this?
I won't mention. You can guess.
No, help me guess.
No, just conduct some more investigation or ask the staff of SIC to tell it.
Okay. Is it any company owned by a former minister who had a stake in it?
Your guess may be right.
You're making reference to which insurance company then, Mr. Larry Jiagge?
I won't mention.
Okay, let's move on. Please go ahead and make your point.
Yes, so that thing to be addressed. I can't imagine how I can own assets and then the assets will be insured somewhere else. That makes no sense. There are a lot of businessmen in Ghana who own insurance companies. Their assets are insured with their companies and not with a third company. That is an issue that should be addressed. There should be a reversal of some of those movements.
Right. Well, Mr. Jiagge, I want to say a big thank you to you for your time with us this morning. It's been very revealing, and we appreciate your candor. Larry Jiagge is a lawyer and chartered insurer. Oh God, my head is exploding.